Good evening and welcome to the City of Pinellas Park. Tonight we're going to do our town talks. Tonight we're going to talk about our update to the stormwater utility plan. I'd like to introduce you to Ms. Kelly Westover with Stantec.
Thank you, Bart. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We have a short presentation followed by a live question and answer session. So we're going to get started with the presentation about the stormwater utility changes. So who called this meeting anyway? The city currently maintains the publicly owned portion of the stormwater management system, and it's funded with a stormwater fee on your utility bill and your property taxes. Now, costs have been rising as the system ages and more revenue is needed for flood protection and water quality. The city is updating its stormwater fee to better align with the property's needs and the contribution of the stormwater. So our agenda tonight has three main topics. The first one, why the city manages stormwater. Second, how your stormwater utility fee will be changing. And third, we'll have ways to share your questions. So the city manages stormwater because runoff from hard surfaces like your rooftop, from the roads, from the streets, pick up pollutants that slowly travel into the waterways and into Tampa Bay. Those pollutants consist of pet waste from dogs in our backyards, fertilizer we put out, litter, dirt, oils, and chemicals. So the city manages stormwater to protect your property from flooding. They help not only ensure the roadways are accessible, but also that you can enter and leave your property. Ultimately, they improve the public health and the welfare within the community. The city manages stormwater to improve water quality. Stormwater management is essential to protect the natural environment so that we can all enjoy the water resources around us. And last but not least, the city manages stormwater to meet regulatory requirements. The discharges coming from the stormwater system are subject to the Clean Water Act, and the city is required to perform certain activities per a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NPDES permit. And there's recent water quality issues. Additional regulations are anticipated, and so the city is incurring a lot of additional costs associated with meeting those regulatory requirements. The city does have a stormwater utility established in 2006, and that utility provides a lot of benefits for the community. It has a dedicated, stable funding, which funds currently a portion of its needs. It's fair, equitable, and transparent. It's based on your local needs, your local revenue needs. The utility provides matching funds for grant programs. It funds water quality and flood protection projects, regular operations and maintenance, replacement of critical infrastructure, and it helps to recognize and encourage on-site management of stormwater in the community. So there's many components of the city's stormwater system that they provide, regular operation and maintenance. Maybe the culverts that you see outside of your driveway, drainage inlets, ditches, swales, all these different things they do every day. So the next piece of our presentation tonight is about how your fee will be changing. So currently, stormwater is funded on a monthly utility bill. This chart here shows what the current stormwater fee structure consists of, with three different classes. Residential single family, they pay a flat rate of $48 a year. Residential multifamily pays half that amount, $24 a year. And then non-residential, commercial, different types of properties, they pay based on the square footage of the parcel. $72, $96, or $120 a year currently. The stormwater is partially funded by general fund contributions as well as that stormwater fee, and it partially covers the cost of operations, maintenance, and improvements to the system. But the current structure does not account for differences in runoff between parcels, since, like I mentioned, it's a flat fee. So the City of Pinellas Park is facing some challenges right now regarding the stormwater utility funding. Infrastructure needs are outpacing the current funding. Some of the staff has been doing reactive versus proactive maintenance, and the stormwater fee is not generating enough revenue for needed capital projects. Ultimately, the stormwater utility is not self-sufficient, and with the revenue combination between the fee and the general fund revenue, it's not financially independent. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Kyle Stevens with Stantec, and he's been working intimately with the city on updating the stormwater fee calculation.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Now for the next few slides, I'd like to go through the technical elements of the study, which are best described as the key formula is the revenue requirements, which is simply the amount of money we need to operate the system each year, divided by the total number of ERUs, which stands for equivalent residential units. And so that's the number of parcels and billing units within the stormwater service area, which allows us to derive a fee that is required to meet those needs. Now, in order to calculate that fee, the first requirement was to define the revenue requirement. This slide right here shows a financial model that we created as part of the study, which forecasts the needs of the utility for the next 10 years. And at a concept level, this is just as simple as a household budget. We've got cash going out in the form of needs for personnel, operations, and capital investments, and we've got revenue coming in, and those two have to be balanced. Importantly on this slide, this shows a 2-year phasing plan, which would occur in fiscal year 22, raising the fee and the revenue it generates by 140%, and then in fiscal year 23 by 32%. And what this will allow is the stormwater utility to operate independently and sustainable for the next 10 years over this projection period. Now, how do we measure a parcel's use of the stormwater system? Unlike the water system where we can measure how much water you use, there are different ways to measure the stormwater that's used by a parcel. Off to the left of this slide, I've put a number of bases that communities will use, ordered from least connected to stormwater to most connected to the stormwater potential. So things like the taxable value, the flat fee for all parcels, the number of dwelling units, gross area, which would be the size of a parcel, the pervious area would be the part that's not paved over, and then finally the impervious area. And within the stormwater industry, the impervious area is considered the gold standard, or the metric that the vast majority of communities use. And it's pretty simple to understand off to the right side here, where we look at two different parcels. On one, we've got a vacant parcel. The runoff coefficient there when we have a storm event is roughly 0.2 or 20% runs off. But after that parcel's developed and things like driveways and roofs are added, there's a large increase in the amount of runoff, 70%, up to 70% of the precipitation on that property can potentially run off and then has to be managed by the city. So how do you find your impervious area? As part of this update of the fee, we use the Pinellas County Property Appraisers Database, which catalogs for each and every property within the service area a number of key characteristics like building area, extra features like sheds, asphalt, cement, and we're able to add those different features up to create an estimate of the amount of impervious area on each and every property. And so this slide shows on a example residential house, adding in a shed and the main floor area, it's about 1,400 square feet. That area is then rounded down for the purposes of billing to the nearest hundredth. So for billing purposes, it's a 1,400 square feet of impervious area on this parcel. Then each parcel for single-family residential detached units are placed within a tier system. And so in this table, I'll walk from the left to the right. On the left, we have the tiers that have been constructed as part of this update, which place a parcel in a tier 1 if it's between 400 square feet of impervious area up to 1,600. Tier 2 if it's greater than 1,600 but less than 3,200. Tier 3 if it's 3,200 to 4,600. And finally, all the other properties that would be larger than 4,600 would be a tier 4 parcel. Now, under the current fee structure, all of these parcels pay the same fee, monthly and in an annual amount that's $48. Under the proposed changes, in year one, you would then see a scaling, so as a parcel has more impervious on it, they would proportionally pay a larger fee to represent the fact that they use the stormwater system more during precipitation events. So the fee would range from $45 up to $183 for a Tier 4. As I mentioned a second ago, additionally, this is a 2-year phase plan. And so the first year fees are in the middle, and off to the right would show the final fees after the 2 years of increases for each of these parcels, which, for example, in a Tier 1 would be up to $59.82 annually, and for down to a bottom, a Tier 4 property, the larger impervious area would be $243.88 for those parcels. Now, an example of the impacts of these bills on different residential, single-family residential properties. I've put a number of graphics over here to demonstrate how parcels, as they have different features on them, will gain impervious area. And so we can see in the top, that's a Tier 1 parcel that would fall between that 400 and 1,600 square feet. In the first year, the bill would actually come down slightly, it'd be $2, but then with the phase 2, the second phase, the bill increase would be another $14 to $59.82. For a Tier 2 property, which is the average parcels within Pinellas Park, that would be an increase from the current fee up to $69.39. That's $21 on an annual basis. And then phase 2 would increase that up to $92. Tier 3 for the first year would be $131, and for the second year would be $174.86. Tier 4, finally, the larger properties include oftentimes extra features, larger area, would be $183.88 for the first year, an increase of $135.88, and for the second year, once it's fully phased in, it would be $243.88, or $60 more. Here's another example from within the community in Mainland, which is a large residential development. Current fee here on this particular development, it's about $24 annually for this property that's shown. The fee would increase in this one, or would be a Tier 1 property, so the fee would be $45.10 in the first year, and in the second year it would be $59.82. One important distinction here is this shows this property as if it were billed individually. Currently, stormwater fees are on the utility bill, and so oftentimes, if there's an HOA involved, the HOA is actually paying the fee right now. I'll talk about in a second ago one of the changes that would move this to the tax bill, so it would come to the property owner. This is another example. So in this particular case, we're looking at a multifamily example. And when we get outside of the single family class, the best structure to use is what we usually call measured, which means we're looking at the individual area that's contained within the parcel and coming up with a fee that is representative of the amount of impervious area. And so in this particular example, this area is 21 dwelling units in this picture. It's about 41,800 square feet of billable impervious area. This parcel currently pays $504 annually. Under the updated fees, it would be $1,405 in the first year, and the second year it would be $1,923, again, proportional to the amount of area on these properties, and these would be sized for the individual development. Another example is part of the study, a non-residential parcel. So this is an example of a small retail establishment. The current fee is $72 annually. For the first year, it'd be $194. For this example, $257 for the second year of the phase. Now, one of the key considerations as we look at these non-single families, with the current fee, it has 3 tiers for the gross area. But with our impervious area, we're actually scaling to match as these parcels grow. So in this current example, the fee is $96 for a fast food restaurant. But there's a significant amount of impervious area. So when we update that, the new calculated fee in the first year would be $933.30. That's a change of about $836. For the second year of the phase, it would be $1,237.80. That's $304.50 more than the year before. And my final example is a very large industrial type property within the service area. That fee is currently $120 on an annual basis, but there's a very significant amount of impervious area here that the stormwater system has to be sized to meet when we have a precipitation event. So what we're seeing in these fees is a recognition of that. In the phase one, the fee would move up to $5,624.06 on an annual basis. And then again, in phase two, we'd see an increase up to $7,459.03. Now, how do you figure out where you fall in here? As I mentioned, the property appraiser's data will allow you very quickly for a single-family home to be able to identify the attributes that add up to the impervious area, your base area under a roof, plus any extra features you might have, concrete, asphalt, sheds in the backyard. Once you have that footprint, rounding it down to the nearest hundredth, you can then figure out which tier you would fall into on this table and how that compares to your current fee, as well as the 2-year phasing plan that is shown here in the middle column and the column to the right. I should also mention that currently these are draft fees, so as part of this effort, we will be updating and looking at the newest property data that's available this year in updating these and finalizing these over the summer. One of the other key elements of the stormwater update was the collection methodology. I mentioned a second ago that currently stormwater fees are collected on the utility bill, so they oftentimes show up with your water and wastewater bill. As part of the update, the recommendation is to move stormwater charges off of the utility bills and onto what's known as a non-ad valorem assessment. And what that simply means is they will show up on a property's annual tax bill. And the reason for that change is there are a number of benefits that the city can recognize by going to that methodology. One of the largest ones that comes to my mind is that it's more accurate and equitable because we are using the property database from Pinellas County as it's updated, and we're able to track changes as parcels combine or split. It's much harder to do that under a utility billing methodology. The current stormwater fee collection methodology, just a couple key points. As that transition begins to occur, the last monthly bill for stormwater will be in October of 2021 this year. Stormwater bills, however, will begin to transition kind of mid-October to the property tax bill. And then the non-ad valorem tax assessment will show up on a property's bill for the 2022 property taxes, which would be in November of this year, 2021. Kelly, I'll hand it back over to you for the timeline.
Great, thank you. So we wanted to share with the community that there are multiple next steps that this will go through until October 1st of this year implementation. And within the next steps, there are multiple points for the community to come and share their thoughts with City Council. In June, there will be a first reading and a public hearing for an amended stormwater utility ordinance. Then in July, Stantec will be updating the billing units. That's the property appraiser data that Kyle Stevens mentioned, and we'll be updating the proposed stormwater fee changes. At that time, the city will also be sending out first-class mail notices to each parcel within the city, stating what their proposed stormwater fee will be under the new structure. And then in August, City Council will have their first reading of the non-ad valorem assessment, and will also advertise a public notice 20 days before a public hearing that will be held in September. In September, they'll have the second reading and the public hearing for the adoption of the non-ad valorem assessment. And then on October 1st, it would become effective. The updated fee would go into place, as well as the non-ad valorem assessment. So the key takeaways from today: number one, your stormwater fee is changing to pay for maintenance and for project needs. How your bill is moving from the utility bill to the property tax bill in October. And if there are any questions after today, you can contact Aaron Peterson. This is his email and his phone number. He'll be the direct point of contact with the city to answer questions after today. But right now, we have our phone line open and are excited to hear your questions, comments, and thoughts that you may want to share with me, with Kyle Stevens, or with any of the city staff that are here to answer your questions. As you can see, the phone number is there on the bottom of the screen.
While we're waiting, do you want to discuss a couple of things that just happened recently? You mind? I'll talk about it. So since we've worked on this for about a year, and we've been going back and forth with Stantec and City Council discussing these things and these changes that are coming and what's being put on our plate. Since our final presentation to council, we've actually had two pretty major updates that have happened. We recently had a meeting with the county and some other municipalities in the area. And long story short, some of the large conveyance canals that run through the city, like Pine Brook Canal and the Cross Bayou Canal, have become a pretty big concern for maintenance. So the county has put together a big assessment, and we're working with Largo and the county to figure out how to maintain them and who's going to maintain them and how it's going to work. Part of the calculations show that our fee, just from the city of Pinellas Park, is about $1 million. We didn't factor this. We didn't know this was coming. This is one of those things that happens, during process, and as the evolution of stormwater happens, these are the changes that occur. Recently, if you followed legislation, there was a bill passed that's going to require the city to update a master plan every 5 years. Part of doing this was to put together a master plan. We currently don't have a master plan for stormwater. It's going to be costly. These are things that we were hoping to get prepared for, but they're pushing them pretty quickly. So just as we're talking about this stuff, before we can even get it put into place, we're finding that there's a lot of issues that are going to come up and arise as we work through this stuff. So it's not going to get any cheaper for us. It's just one of those things where as we get bigger and things grow and stormwater is always going to be, coming down no matter what in Florida, it's going to be something we have to take care of. And we do a really good job at it. It's just the way that we balance our budget now with having to pay from general fund to pay for stormwater. It's almost a 50-50 split. The fee that we have coming in basically only covers 50% of our costs going out to maintain just what we have. And that's like Kelly was mentioning, we don't cover capital, so we're not able to put capital projects together to where we can put, stormwater stuff out there. So that's just something that's just a change that's happened since the last time we talked to you guys.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are happening to us. Anything you want to elaborate on?
It was $1 million a year
Yes.
for 2 years, and then it transitions down, but yes, it was a big cost.
Yeah. Got a question, Dan? You're live.
I'm going to try and read the handwriting, so bear with me. Shouldn't the utility bill be lower since you are moving to the property tax? That, yes, your utility bill will be lower because you won't be paying the stormwater fee in it.
That's exactly right.
And I would just add to that as well, if you're in a community with an HOA or a setup like that, it would be a decrease on the HOA side as well, and that might be how the bill gets to the particular property owner in those cases. So it just depends on the configuration and who's paying the utility bill currently.
That's a good question. Nobody wants to call us.
I'm not hearing any questions on my line. Or lit up. Well, like we said, there's multiple communication points with the community to come to those public hearings and first reading.
Sheds. Yeah, they're impervious. They'll be factored. Still the roof. The question was, are sheds counted? So the impervious area of the roof, so the top of the roof of the shed is still impervious. No matter if it's a wood floor, a dirt floor, whatever, the impervious area still sheets water off. So that's calculated as part of the fee. A big takeaway for this, if you don't want to call, is that phone number that we'll post up there for Mr. Peterson. He loves taking phone calls. It was actually his idea to do this, where he could take these phone calls, and he's well versed in it. So if you have questions, feel free to call Aaron, call myself, call Mr. Hubbard. We're all available for you 24/7. We'll figure out a way to get you answered, and we'll take care of you one way or the other. Another question down there?
All right, the question that just came in is, would it be possible to charge the state or the county, so they're referring to the Florida Department of Transportation or Pinellas County, for the stormwater that comes off their roads into our system? So offhand, currently, I can't tell you of any of those situations that exist. We're the secondary system. We mainly maintain the secondary systems, which are the smaller systems. So we outfall into those agencies. So we outfall into the state, the county, and the Pinellas Park Water Management District, not vice versa, because they control and maintain the more major conveyances. So at this time, I can't think of any of situations where this does occur, where one of those agencies actually outfalls into our system. You can think of any.
Well, it is an interesting question because we are actually responsible for their water. So when their water comes off of Gandy Boulevard or Park Boulevard or 66th Street, it actually becomes our responsibility. In some way, shape, or form, it's very technical. The state's exempt from a lot of the NPDES rules that we have to follow. We're under the umbrella of the county and NPDES, and we're actually responsible for it. So if you want to, it's a technical side of it if you want to go there, Aaron.
So, again, the fee refers to properties. So the county and the DOT are exempt from property taxes as well, so that they won't be paying the fee. And that's like school board and other government agencies. They're exempt from property taxes. So, but we do have a great relationship with those other agencies. We work together on projects all the time. So, we over time on projects we work together and we make improvements. They help us. We help them.
I think we covered it. They got the phone number, so I think if you have questions from this point on, we'll keep this. Well, I think we're going to roll this anyways. It's going to be out there. The video's going to be on Facebook, the website, and it'll be available to everybody. Like we said, we'll have another couple public hearings coming up, but that phone number is key. If you have questions for us, we'll be happy to answer them and figure out ways to make you understand what we're trying to do here and help you. So if you want to call Mr. Peterson after this, and I think we're good. I want to thank you guys for helping us out with this. And Dan, you got anything?
No, I just, this list of frequently asked questions, though, you might want to, somebody might want to.
Well, we'll be so this episode will be airing after this at certain times scheduled, and the frequently asked questions will be posted online as well. So the public can view these frequently asked questions. If people call in and email in and we get some more frequently asked questions, we'll add them to this list, but it will be available online.
All right, so thank you all for watching, and we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Have a good night.